Hey folks, welcome to Dominion 6, Rise of the Pantokrator. This is the new game in Illwinter's long-running fantasy strategy series. It's likely one of the most complex strategy games that's ever been made. It's certainly up there with things like Shadow Empire for complexity. However, it's complex in a different way. It's not as mechanically complex as Shadow Empire. It's not got as many mechanics, but there's just so much content, and it's an incredibly elegant game in my opinion. I think it is one of the best games that's ever been made. Dominion 6 is a big improvement over Dominions 5. We'll look at that as we go through. And I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to just try to show you some gameplay. Obviously, I'm going to have to describe what's going on. So for those of you who don't know what Dominions is, it's a fantasy 4X game essentially, where you are a pretender to becoming the new god, and you are facing off with other pretenders on a randomly generated map usually, or you can pick or generate you can actually create your own maps or import them. But I'm going to be playing on a randomly generated map. You create your pretender, which is your god's vessel in this world, and then you pick a nation to control. Actually, you do it the other way around, but you pick a nation to control, and then you pick a pretender. And there's many nations in the game. If I just go to the create a pretender god, there's 3 different ages in the game, and basically, Illwinter are great, right? They've created a narrative that plays through the different eras, and many of the nations that are in the early age you'll find them later on in the Middle Ages and the Late Ages, and they evolve. So, in the early ages are kind of like the Bronze Age, basically, between the sort of Stone Age and Bronze Age. Magic's really powerful. There's loads of magic resources. Mages they have really very strong, powerful magic, but less choice of magic, I'd guess. And yeah, there's no steel, and you don't really find iron very often. In the Middle Ages, things have progressed a little bit more. Mages are a little bit less powerful, but they've got more path access, different types of magic. And we've now got things that crossbows are more common, and we've got things like iron, and there's some steel too. And then in the Late Ages, the nations have developed even further. So we've got iron and steel. And magic power is less. There's less magic in the world, but there's more knowledge of magic. So the mages tend to have more different kinds of paths, and there are more complex ways of boosting your magic power, let's say. And I usually play in the early age and occasionally in middle. I don't play late very often, but Dominion 6 has added some really cool factions to the late age. Late Age is actually quite challenging, I think, for a beginner, but I'm going to play it anyway. I'm quite experienced with Dominions 5. I've got over 1,000 hours in it, and at least half of that was playing in single player. I'm going to talk as we go through the game, but I am going to try to play as well, guys, because I know that I have a bit of a habit of over-talking. By the way, this game has really wonderful new music. I'm not putting it on just because this is actually a pre-release version that I've been given by Illwinter very kindly. They gave me a review copy, and they sent me a printed manual as well. And by the way, when if the manual is available, I highly recommend you buy it. It's beautiful. It's a big tome, and it's beautifully made. I believe Illwinter have used their own proprietary software to make this, to make and lay out this manual, and it's gorgeous. It's really readable. It is. I agree with what Daz Tactics says. It's one of the best manuals that I've ever read. It's really concise, and it needs to be, because Dominions is a complex game. But pretty much everything you need to know to get started with the game is in there. Okay, so this is a pre-release version, and there is at the moment there's a little glitch with the music where I'll put some music on for you, and you can. Here we go, look. But the music is really good. The music's great. The only thing is that it will turn off. I'll leave it on, and then it will occasionally turn off. I just don't think it loops right yet, but I expect that will be fixed for the release. There we go, look. It's really cool. I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, guys, because I want you to be able to hear me speaking. That's more important. So, turn it down a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a world. I've already created a pretender, and I've picked my nation that I'm going to play as. This is not going to be a video oriented specifically as a tutorial. I would advise you go to Daz Tactic for that. Out of everybody who's got the game at the moment, I think Daz is probably the best person for learning the game from. He's really thorough. So go and check out Daz Tactics channel. I'll link him in the description if I remember. And if you're a multiplayer player and you're really interested in how the game has changed from Dominions 5, go and check out Lucid Tactics, because Lucid is the don of multiplayer. And I do play multiplayer, and I'm okay at it, but I'm not great, so I'm not really the person to talk too much about multiplayer. In this game, I'm going to be playing single player, and we're going to pick... Right, I'll just quickly show you some of the new features, right? These are the new map settings. We've got a whole bunch of different layouts that the game can make. So you can have this like kind of circular world, like a donut shape. You've got this one with the big sea in the middle. There's one where the players only spawn on the east and west sides of the map, and they don't spawn in the middle. So if you want to start on different sides to most of your opponents, then there's one where they do not spawn in the center. These are really, really cool, by the way. I'm hoping that in multiplayer, people start picking some of these maps rather than just relying on map nuke all the time. I do love map nuke, by the way. Map nuke's amazing, and it's essential really for, you know, competitive multiplayer, I think. But I find the maps a little bit boring. They are boring because they have to be, because they've got to be fair, and I don't like fair maps when I play. So for me, I'm kind of hoping that people might start picking some of these a little bit more. We've now got this underground layer as well, so we've got a cave system in the game. So nations like Agartha and the new nation of Famini and a few others are likely to start either in or around the caves, you know, above the caves. And I'm going to put the caves on the circle cave, because I really want lots of caves in this game. I think it'd be pretty cool to see that. I'm going to pick 15 provinces per player, so it's a medium-sized map. I don't want the game to go on for a very, very long time. I'm going to call this LP, and I'll just call it LP Ben. Okay. So we're going to pick the late age. So in the late ages, iron and steel are readily available and used to arm most troops. Magic resources have continued to dwindle, but mages have become more organised, and their knowledge of the different magic paths are greater than ever before. So, we get a whole bunch of choices. Now, late age has the fewest nations, by the way. Like early age and middle age particularly have got loads and loads of choices. This is the least choice, and look how many nations there are in the game. And we've got 3 new ones in Dominion 6. We've got Andromania, who are... culturally advanced Cynocephalians, which are kind of dog people. Very, very... these look really, really strong. I think that these would be a really cool... these probably be maybe a good one for beginners if they wanted to play in the late age. I would advise against playing in the late age if you're new to the game, by the way, because it's a little bit more challenging. It's much more difficult to expand. You know, the neutral factions in the game are much stronger. And yeah, it's kind of difficult. But I'm up for the challenge. We've also got Piconnier, which is a halfling nation. These are the little horned men. And yeah, these guys are like little halflings. They're well armored. You can spam out loads of them, and they've got really, really strong priests. And they've got some interesting path access that allows you to really make use of the fact that they've got loads and loads of little guys. They're not very strong, but they're really, really good in defense. So these are really cool. I played with them. I really enjoyed them. Thirdly, by the way, all of these are an offshoot from Magnificent Ind. Now, Ind was a nation in the Middle Age. Where are we? This is Ind, right? And, oops. So, Ind was a nation in the Middle Age. And they were like a priestly kind of nation, I guess, is a simple way of putting it. And they had like, these soldier priests. So everybody in the country is a priest, pretty much. So you've got the archer priests. We've got the soldier priests. They're all sacred, and so they were a heavily sacred nation. They liked building temples, and they had some. They had astral, earth, fire, and blood. So they actually had some blood magic as well, which is kind of rare in the well, it's rarer in the Middle Age. Also, though, they had these 4 subservient nations. Well, there are actually a few. We had the Little Horned Men of Piconnier, or the Lady Knights of Great Famini. They were available. You also had the Men of Great Orinde, and then we had the Cynocephalians, who became the Andromania, and then we had the Giants of the Lost Tribe. Okay, so actually some of these now have become their own nations in Late Age, and that's how this game's really, really cool. It's got this kind of narrative that runs through. It's not a story. There is story content in the game if you turn it on, but that's not really how it works. All of the lore is told through the unit and nation descriptions. And so it's really, really cool. Like, you can ignore this if you want. If you're just a pure strategy gamer, you can ignore all the lore. But I wouldn't. I think one of the wonderful things with this, particularly for such a complex and competitive game when you're playing multiplayer, is it's still wonderfully, wonderfully immersive. We're going to play as Femini, the Sage Queens. And I'm gonna read out their description to you, and we'll take a look at some of their units. It's not going to be a full nation analysis. Check one of the multiplayer guys like Lucid out for that. But yeah, I will go over them quickly because it will be pertinent to what we're doing. I'm going to try and do it quite quick though, folks. Famini is a hidden queendom in a faraway land ruled by women. It was once an Amazon queendom, subservient to magnificent Ind. But when the Khans of Tianqi defeated the sacred armies of Ind and killed the Prester king himself, the dominion of Ind was broken, and the subservient tribes and kingdoms found themselves free from the yoke of the magnificent kingdom. Sorceresses of Famini salvaged the esoteric knowledge of the sage priests of Ind and have become keepers of their hidden lore. Throughout the queendom, monasteries filled with ancient texts can be found. Abbesses and their servants search the books for arcane secrets to further the magical might of Famini. The queendom is now ruled by wise and able sage queens who hide their lands from outside threats. Okay, so this is a human race. They're all women. Women basically are all the ruling class, so the priestly class, the mage class, and also the soldiers too. The men stay at home and wash the dishes, presumably. And they are humans, so they prefer heat scale +1. So they're used to living in a hot climate. They're Amazons basically. These are Amazons that became, kind of more civilized, I guess. They are human infantry and knights. So they kind of are a little bit like something like Marignon, I guess, in the way they don't have crossbows. We've got archers instead because they come from the Amazon class. They were originally Amazons, so they've got a history, I guess, of using the short bow. Short bows aren't great in the late age because there's so much armor. So these aren't, we are going to use these, we're going to need them, but they aren't great. They are good against certain types of units, though, like barbarians and anything that's not very well armored. Okay, so let's go. We're going to go through the what they've got. They've got Astral Glamour, which is a new magic path to Dominion 6, and it's been separated out from. It's kind of an amalgamation of some of the spells from Astral and Air, where Astral and Air have now had new spells to replace the ones that they've lost to Glamour. Glamour is kind of like, illusion magic. Okay, then we've got Fire, and we've got some water and nature as well. So we get some low path access to water and nature, but because we've got Astral, which is a communion path, we can put our mages, and they can join what's called a communion, and that will boost the low level magic paths higher and higher depending on how many mages they've got in the communion. So they all get together, pool their power in battle, and you can have 4 or 8 communion slaves with a few communion masters drawing on their power in order to boost their magic. But communions are really good fun to use. They're a little complex, but I'll talk about how to use those. I'm not. I think if you're playing competitively, you kind of need to know a little bit of maths to be able to. You've got to kind of work out some of the mathematics, because if you don't do communions right, you can actually die. Your mages will die. But I'll talk about that later on. But don't be put off. Communions aren't that difficult to use. You can use communions as a beginner and have fun with them. Just be aware that they are kind of dangerous, but the rewards you get are very, very good. Our priests are medium level. They are divinely inspired researchers. Now, this is one of the key things about Famini. We've got this idea of these kind of former Amazons that were subservient to magnificent Ind. They've kind of taken on a lot of some of the practices of Ind. They're not quite as close to Ind as Piconnier are. They haven't taken on the priestly soldiers, for example, or they're not quite as devout. So we do have some level 2 priests. Where are we? We've got the Femini Abbess here. So she's a level 2 priest. So these are good priests, right? Priests are even more important in Dominion 6, by the way, because of the way that fear and morale now works. That's had a change. We've also got the Sage Queen. She is a level 2 priest as well, and she's a very strong mage. We'll look at her in a moment, but just know for now that we've got this divine insights ability, which means that these sacred units with no magic paths can actually research up to your Dominion score, okay? And so basically you can actually get way more research with these guys. They're not the best researchers, but they're really cost efficient. 26 gold per year for 4. If you boost that a little bit, that can be really, really good. These guys are 6, so you can get loads and loads of research out, and these are a research focused nation. It makes up for the fact that they are really not very strong in combat at the start of the game. We don't have the best units, so this is going to be a real tough playthrough for me. Okay, your Dominion hides province ownership. That's because these guys are glamour masters, or they're mistresses of glamour. and they use their magic to veil their nation, their kingdom, into, like, away from prying eyes, basically, because they're supposed to be quite a secretive society. They're all about, you know, keeping themselves secret and away from others. But now is the time for the Pantokrator to rise. So their pretender god is, you know, they are the god that they are worshipping is going to send them out into the world. So we're actually going to leave the, leave Famini finally, where they've been residing for years and years, you know, kind of cut off from the rest of the world, on a war of conquest. Okay, scales and blessings, we get a magic limit +1. Scales have changed in Dominion 6. We'll talk about that when we look at the pretender design. Now, just for those who are coming from Dominions 5 or 4 or earlier games, your scales, generally speaking, can only go to +2 or -2 now, as the limit. But certain nations and certain pretender types will be able to boost you further. Also, spells can boost, the heat and death and growth scales various ways as well. And you can get very, very high with the scales now, and those scales can have effects like terraforming tiles, which is very, very interesting. A new mechanic. Finally, we've got the standard fort builds. Forts are now much more expensive. They're 1,000 gold for your basic fort. The price of everything has gone up, apart from troops, pretty much. But you get more money in this game now. It feels quite abundant at first, but you will soon start running out. Mages are more expensive too. Again, I will explain why later. But we get half-price temples because we are a relatively devout nation, and we use our temples. We have the cloistered lady and the Famini abbess. These ladies are, our researchers, essentially. Apart from them, they're many of our researchers. We also have very, very good magic researchers too. Okay, let's have a look at the Veiled City itself. This is the site that is located in Famini, the province. This enables the recruitment of the Sage Queen, the Unseen One, and the Veiled One. Okay, we also get 2 glamour gems. This is a new gem type for the new magic path. We also get a fire gem and an astral pearl every turn. So we don't get a big variety of gems. We have to get out there and search for them. But these are the ones that we mostly get. Now, glamour is it's kind of a cool all-purpose. It's very good for buffing. It's very good for debuffing, and it has some direct combat spells as well. And it has some really, really, really cool rituals for use on the strategic map. So we get 2 of those per turn. Fire it has multiple purpose as well, but it's an excellent combat spell. And because there's an extended focus now on troops, bigger battles, the battle maps are a lot bigger now. I think they're about 50% bigger than they were before. So they're really big. You can cram in way more troops. You can afford more troops. The battles are just way bigger now. So fire is kind of powerful in this one. I'm thinking. I think it's probably going to be a lot more powerful because there's more variation in the area of effect sizes between spells right across the board, and there's more space on the map to be able to target stuff. So the tactical element of this game is probably increased dramatically, I'd say. I'm talking particularly for single player, but I think it's going to be the same with multiplayer as well. Okay. So we've seen the Veiled City. Let's take a real quick look at their units. I'm not going to go through these in great detail, folks. I don't want it to be a nation guide. I'm not really qualified to do that. Femini militia. This is a militia unit. Now, these are women, but these women are as strong as men. They're former Amazons. So this is like a fairly standard militia unit. They've got low protection. They don't have a shield. So they die very, very easily. However, they have got a spear. They do get some repel. They don't have very good attack, so the repelling ability with the spear isn't great, but you send enough of them at the enemy, they can be useful in a pinch. It's likely that we might have to use quite a lot of these in the early game. I don't like to use militia, but you'll see why. We've got the Femini archer. I think we've talked about these. They've got a bow attack and a dagger. It's not particularly strong. It will pierce a little armor because it's piercing damage. However, it's not going to get through plate mail, right? So it depends on who we come up against, but these might not be so useful. But we're going to use them anyway in the early game. We've got the Famini City Guard. These carry a big glaive, so they've got a big heavy hitting attack. They've got more protection because they're now wearing a plate cuirass, which gives them some good body protection. It's also made of iron, which means if they go underwater, they can get rusty, or there's certain spells that can rust armor as well. Dominions is so complex, it's great. You can see how many statistics there are here, look, and if you click on these, there's like loads of stuff hidden in here too, like you know, your patrol strength is hidden in precision. It's kind of weird. Anyway, they've got this big glaive attack. They've also got a castle defense bonus because these are city guards, so they're designed to defend castles. Okay, we've got the Famini soldier. These are your basic spear troop. They've got protection 14. They've got higher defense because they've got the spear. Spear gives you a... oh no, sorry. Oh, that'll come from the shield. So they've got a shield with a... they get a parry bonus for their defense. So some of your attacks will actually hit the shield, and it's possible to break shields when they get hit as well. So yeah, they are just standard human troops. Strength 10, attack 10. They've got defense 12 with the shield, and 10 hit points. This is just a standard human troop, slightly high morale. Okay, we've got the Femini swordsman, very similar. It's like, I think that's slightly higher protection. Yeah, we've got slightly higher protection, and I believe that's from the shield and from their broadsword, because they get a defense from the broadsword. They've got defense 14, so these will stand up in combat a lot longer. They've got a helmet, yeah, so these are pretty good. They've got better attack, better defense. They are more expensive though. They need more resources and higher recruitment points to get out than the spearmen. It's harder to train people with swords than it is with the spear, apparently. We've got the lady at arms. These are dismounted knights essentially. So in Famini, all the women are the ruling class. So these are the dismounted knight class basically. These are the influential noble families who cannot afford the heavy armor instead of the lady knights. Again, they're quite expensive to get out, but these are really good. They've got defense skills 16, which is pretty high for a troop. They've got the kite shield, and that's why they've got a really big shield. They've got 15 protection again, and they've got high attack skill because of the broadsword. They've also got the bodyguard ability. This enables you to set these ladies as bodyguards to your mages, and if there's an assassination attempt, there's a fair chance that these ladies will get in the way first. There's been some changes to assassinations too that are really cool. Okay, we've got the Lady Knight. These are a mounted troop, very high protection, very high defense. They are skilled riders. Now this is a new feature in Dominion 6. You actually get mounts as their own unit now, and when they're in combat, not only do they attack separately, they can be affected by magic and things separately, because they've got their own magic resistance and they've got their own morale. But also, excuse me. But also, if your knight is killed, the horse will tend to run off. But if you lose the horse, the knight will fight on foot. This is a big change in Dominions. It seems like a small change, but it's actually quite big. I reckon there was a lot of work went into it, because I think, you know, in order to redo all these models, and you know, this is a lot of work for Illwinter, but this makes the game much more thematic. And if you lose a horse from your knight, and you survive, and the knight survives the battle, you can actually re-recruit. Sometimes I think the mounts might be able to return too, but basically you're able to recruit the unit for cheaper than you would before, because they're just basically getting a new mount. So this is really cool. The Lady Knights are basically, you're going to be hitting the enemy on the flanks and the back lines with it. They're also very strong because they've got the lance charge. It does real heavy damage. Can only be used when they first charge in, so it's one attack, but it does a lot of damage when it first goes in. Okay, and then finally we've got the Veiled One. The Veiled One is notable for having glamour. Okay, so the fluff is here. These are ladies they're sacred. They're sacred spear maidens, and they're trained to use glamour magic. So they've got this ability called glamour. They mirror their own image, and so that makes it so not only are they difficult to detect when they're moving around in enemy territory, they've got a really high stealth skill. So these ladies can sneak through enemy territory very easily, and they're pretty much undetectable in your own territory. Also, they are sacred, so you can give them a bless, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But the glamour makes them very hard to hit in combat as well. They haven't got the highest stats of a sacred unit, to be honest. So we're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to get a lot of these. But mixed in with our other troops, with the bless that we're going to give them, they're going to be pretty useful, at least in the early part of the game, I think. So they're our best troop, and we're going to try to get as many as we can. The thing is, you can only recruit as many of these per turn as you have Dominion points. Holy points. Okay, we got a scout. This is just a scout. she's not very remarkable. She's just a female scout. She's got stealth, so they're used to scout enemy territory. We've got the Famini commander. This is your lowest level commander. It's not the lowest leadership ever, but 75 is not quite enough to be able to put your troops into... She's not quite a tactician enough to be able to organize troops into lines, so they'll attack in blobs instead. So you will use these a little, but they're mostly used for ferrying troops around, I suggest, unless you're poor. We've got the Lady Commander. She's got leadership 100, and she gives a squad morale bonus, so she's going to be your best commander for leading troops in the early game. She's also going to be... she's also quite a decent chassis, or you could put lots of magic items on her and potentially make her, you know, a commander that could attack enemy commanders, anti-thugging as we call it. There's stuff that you can do with these, and yeah, so they're multi-purpose, but for the most part you're going to be using them to lead your armies. These are the you know, the commanders of the knights, the Femini knights. We've got the Cloistered Lady we've already had a look at. These are priests that can research, and the Divine Insights trait means that you can have as many of these divine researchers as you've got strength of dominion in the province. So as your dominion strength grows, you can get more and more of these. What this means is, as you get up more temples and as you recruit more of these, your research is going to go up and up and up. You don't necessarily need to build a lot of expensive mages. This is a research nation, and we're going to lean heavily into that. We're going to need to, because these guys don't expand very well. We're not going to have a very big empire at the start of the game. In fact, the AI is likely to outpace us. At least it did in my test games. Even on normal, because these guys really, really struggle to expand. They take ages to get armies together. So we are going to rely on having to use magic to support our smaller forces. We've got the Femini Abbess. It's more of the same. Holy 2. She's got more research ability, but she still has the Divine Insights. But she's slower to recruit. Then we've got the Femini Savant. These have all got Astral, so they can be used as communion slaves. She's also got Adept Researcher, so these are quite good researchers. They're not cheap, but they're not... I mean, they're not bad. 96 gold is not bad for 13 research, because you've got this Adept Researcher ability. So these are also really good for researching. They've also got a chance... So they've got 100% chance to get one of these: fire, water, nature, or glamour. So you can plug these guys into communions as communion masters or slaves, and they will work pretty well. We've got the Law Mistress. Slow to recruit, so these take a long time to train. They're pushing towards old age because they've been training for a long time. They've also got a very good Adept Researcher bonus. They're quite expensive though, so they're probably... Yeah, I don't know, 21 research actually. That's not bad for 200 upkeep. So these ladies are researchers. They've also got bigger magic paths. So you can get like Astral 3, Air 3, Glamour 3, or, you know, a sprinkling of nature and water magic in there too. You're going to get some interesting combinations here. I will be recruiting some of those. We've got the Femini Sorceress. These don't have any random paths. They are just Fire 2, Astral 2, Glamour 2. They are a good mage, I think. They're quite expensive, but they have the Veil Army ability, which means they will hide 25 of their troops, and they cannot be detected while we're moving in our own lands. Okay, so we can really, really hide the size of our units, and the AI is not going to be able to detect those. Okay, so if we have enough of these women, or the Femini Sorceress, which is basically, sorry, where are we? This one here, the Sage Queen. She's also got Veil Army, but twice as effective. We can actually mask the size of our troops really, really nicely. Okay, we've got the Unseen one. The Unseen one is a commander for the Sacreds. She's got 1 point in Glamour magic, so she's got a bit of magic. She's got Combat Caster. She's also got really high defense skill. So, and she's glamoured. This is actually quite a good thug chassis, I'd say, because Combat Caster is quite rare. This means that they can cast spell in melee, and they are less likely to lose... If they get hit in combat, they're less likely to fail their spell, basically. So these are actually quite dangerous, I think. I think that you can probably make some really, really cool abilities based around these. The Bless that I'm going to take is not going to affect these too heavily. It's going to be more for our rank and file veiled ones. However, I reckon we could come up with some cool stuff to do with these guys. So they've got the glamour, they're stealthy, they are sacred, they are also priests. Yeah, cool, very, very cool unit. These are the commanders of the veiled ones. Okay, and finally we've got the Sage Queen. This is the top mage in our lineup, I'd say. She's got 1 fire, but 3 astral and 3 glamour. So she's going to be very, very strong in communions, and they can really push the glamour and astral magic very, very high. They're quite good at research. They're really, really expensive. They're quite expensive, but they're slow to recruit. Yeah, again, they've got the Veil Army ability. They're old age already, so they're gonna start dying quicker than the others because they age. They're inspirational, and they've got 110 leadership. So these are going to be your best commanders, actually, I think. Yeah, these unseen ones aren't good leaders. I think yeah. The rest have got quite low leadership scores. These will be okay for ferrying troops around, but that's about it. So she's going to be your best leader, and she's got inspirational, which gives you more morale. So if you come up against anybody who's using a lot of fear, or fear spells, then she might be a better bet for commander. And she gets a 10% chance for an extra path. You don't get these so often, obviously. So there we go. That is our lineup. So what is my plan with this game? Well, we need to look at the Pretender first before we do this. What I'm going to do, guys, we're going to look at the Pretender very, very quickly, and then... Bear with me a second. Yeah, okay, let's just make sure the game's set up first. So I'm going to pick Famini, and we are going to put the AI on normal, because this is going to be a difficult playthrough for me. For a start, late age is kind of difficult. Also, I'm not that familiar with it. I'm going to add one more player, so we've got 6 AI, and I'm going to put the types on... I'm going to put a couple of standard, I'm going to put a couple on defensive, I'm going to put... Yeah, and I'm going to put 1 on aggressive. Now, this not only determines how they behave, but also it will determine how early they will declare war on you. And if we get unlucky, we will get an aggressive AI neighbor, and they'll attack within the first, kind of 2 years. However, I would, because of this build that I'm going for, it's going to be quite difficult for me. So I'm going to put a few of them on defensive to give myself a little bit more time. That doesn't mean that they're not going to expand, and they will build up and become quite powerful if they're defensive. So, but if you're a new player, I advise you play on defensive AI, so you get a little bit of breathing space to actually explore the game mechanics. Okay, I'm a bit more. I've got a lot of time in this game. I'm not saying I'm a great player, because I'm not. I'm going to leave these on random. I think we are probably likely to get some ocean nations, and you'll be able to see how they can be quite difficult to deal with. I'm going to leave the AI modifiers on normal, and we're going to hit OK. Okay, so here we go. This is the screen that we're used to, and I'm going to load in my Pretender that I've created already, and this is Sophia. Sophia is a Titan. She's the Netteret of many names. This is our Pretender's body when it's incarnate on in our world. The Netteret is a giant of divine heritage. She was once the wife of a previous Pantokrator, and was given knowledge of all names and the deeper arcana. When her husband was slain and dismembered in a rebellion of lesser gods, she gathered his body parts and returned him to life. However, his death meant that he was for eternity banished to the underworld. The rebellious Pretenders imprisoned her, and a new Pantokrator came to rule. With the disappearance of the Pantokrator, her prison weakens, and she of many names is once more worshipped as Mistress of Magic and Lady of this world. This is Isis from the Egyptian pantheon. So, she was the one who collected together the dismembered body parts of Horus and reformed him. So for any of you who are into your mythology. By the way, Illwinter, Christopher, and I think Johan as well, they're really, really interested in comparative. I think it was comparative religion and mythology and history. So and Christopher, I think that was his thing. He's a professor, I think, or he's anyway, he's certainly an academic, and that's what he studied. So he weaves in his excellent and deep knowledge of world mythology and history to create the nations and all the Pretenders. It's so cool. This is one of the reasons why this game has captivated players for like 20 years now, over 20 years. The original Dominions came out in 2002, so this game is over 20 years old now. It's one of the oldest running fantasy series. I mean, Master of Magic's older, but that's, it's had a remake, that's it. It's not really a series, I'd say. So and Age of Wonders is probably a little bit older, but there's not many series that are as old as this now. Anyway, so let's have a look at this Netteret. She is a big giant. She's not a particularly combat-oriented giant. That's not what we're going to be using her for, although we can give her magic items later in the game and turn her into a bit of a powerhouse if we want. Most notably, she has magic powers, so she's going to be stronger in provinces with higher magic scales. She's got the adept researcher ability, so she's actually better at research herself, and she's got the inspiring researcher ability, so anybody in the same province who is researching too is going to get +2. This is big. This is what we're building our build around, okay? We are already a research heavy nation, but we are going to ensure that we are going to be pushing research really hard. She starts off with 1 astral magic, and she allows us to increase the magic scales to 3. She's got 3 dominion strength. Okay, so I've picked her. She's going really deep into astral, and she's got a little bit of glamour magic because there's a spell that I want to cast. And this allows us to get, along with the magic scales too, this gives us etherealness. This is a bless effect that we can use on our sacred units. Okay, so etherealness, your blessed units become ethereal, and they are immune to non-magic. Well, there's 75% chance to negate damage from non-magical weapons and spells. Okay. They can also walk through walls and things, so they're good in sieges too. This is a really powerful and expensive bless effect. We don't get chance to get any more because we've used all our bless points. The bless system has changed. I'm not going to talk about it too much because this is already a long video, folks. But I think that if you're a returning player and you haven't already watched Lucid Tactics' videos or Daz's videos, go and check those out, and they will talk to you in detail about how all this has changed and how it will affect multiplayer games. Okay, we've gone for 6 Dominion candles. I tried doing this with 4, but it was such a hard build. I just was really struggling. We need 6 to be able to get more sacred units out, and this will enable us to get more of our researchers. I'd like to get this higher, but I can't. I also wanted magic 3 because we can take that. However, magic 2 is enough, and we have so many research boosting abilities that 2 is plenty. We will be outpacing our rivals by a factor of 2 or 3 probably with research, with how fast we're going to research. However, we are going to be expanding a lot slower, so this is going to be a really... I picked this build because I really felt that it fits in with the nation description of Famini being this kind of hidden kingdom that is filled with esoteric knowledge, and they're very much about research. Okay, so we're going to get big powerful spells much quicker than anyone else, and we are probably going to be harassed before we get a chance to really make our empire big. So we're going to have to come up with a way of cleverly building our forces, our smaller armies, in order to defeat our enemies. And this is why I love Dominions as a single player game. This would not be a good build, by the way, for multiplayer unless you were very, very good. I think if you're a very good player you might be able to do it, but for single player this is quite viable, and it's very, very thematic and fun. The reason why I've picked astral is because if we go into the spells and we just look at sorcery, astral is also called sorcery, there are some pretty cool spells that we can cast. Now we're not going to be able to cast anything that's got the cross paths, not without a bit of magic boosting. However, we just go into, we've got the ability to be able to cast wish later in the game. We can cast time stop. Now the level 9 magic, by the way, you don't immediately get access to all of them when you get to level 9. You have to research each level 9 spell independently, which basically means that these spells have been boosted, so they're much better now. So we can do all sorts of cool stuff with astral. Astral's a really, really powerful path, very powerful path. So you've got paths and you've got schools. Okay, so the path would be like fire, water, nature, blood, whatever, and then the schools are further differentiating the type of spells. You've also got combat spells, and then you've got these ones with the pentagram. That's the ritual. So rituals are cast outside of combat. Okay, I'm not going to go through these too much, but I wanted to show you a few spells. Arcane Nexus is a game-ending spell, I'd say. What this does is, whenever anybody else casts a magic spell, reset a ritual, or creates a magic item, we get some of the magic used, half of it I think, and we get them back as astral pearls. So we basically invest a load of astral pearls into this spell, and then we start getting loads and loads of pearls back in. This will enable us to dominate the game, and this might be the way that we're going to win the game. Okay, depending on how far we get in. And by the way, our insane research ability is going to mean that we're going to get to these big spells faster than anybody else if we can survive. Thaumaturgy's also got Master Enslave, which is a very, very good spell. One of the spells I would like to be able to cast actually is a glamour spell, and that is in Evocation, I think, and that is Project Self. This allows our pretender, or anybody with astral and glamour, to be able to stay in their home province but project themselves into a battle and take part in the battle without actually being at threat. This is really, really powerful, and it takes 5 glamour gems, so it's not cheap to cast. But this means that our Titan will be able to use her formidable magic powers in battles for a small glamour gem cost, without risking her body, which is a really, really cool new spell. Okay, guys, I'm going to generate the map. I'm going to call her Sophia because I think Sophia is, you know, the goddess of wisdom. Is probably a good name for our theme that we're going with. I'm going to allow renaming, and everything else is pretty much going to be. I'm going to leave this. I'm gonna. Do I want story events? I don't know. I've never played with these. I'll be honest with you. So you've got minor story events and you've got all story events. These are for single player games. Apparently, the tooltip says some of these events are very powerful and might be too disruptive for multiplayer games. The story events are probably really cool. I might put minor story events on. I don't know if it's going to be too disruptive to my game. I don't know. Do you know what? I've never really played with these, and these might be really, really cool. And since it's a single player game, I mean, it might be fun to try those. I'm going to put the random events on rare, so we don't get too many random events every turn. We've got diplomacy now in single player. I will talk about that in the game. So we can actually do diplomacy with the AI. And artifacts have a chance to yearn to be created. This is pretty cool. So the most powerful magic items, they get a 50% boost, 50% cost reduction when they want to be made. So this is really like awesome thematic stuff. And yeah, everything else is pretty much the same. I'm going to put thrones on. So the way that the game is won is there is out scattered in the world there are these things called the Thrones of Ascension, and you need to capture them, and they can be very heavily defended. I think what have we got? We've got 7 AI. We've got 7 players. So let's have 14 points, and let's have a bit of a mix. Let's have one level 3, because the level 3 thrones are really powerful, quite hard to get at. Yeah, we don't want to collect them all. That's too much. So that might be a little bit too few. So level 1 thrones are quite easy to capture. Level 2 thrones are a lot more difficult. This is going to be 8 thrones altogether. That's probably quite a lot for this amount of players. Maybe we want 1 throne for each player. So we can have a couple of level 2 ones. Sorry, a couple of level 1 ones. So, you know, you might be able to get an easy throne, basically. Thrones give you some cool powers as well when you get them. You got the level 2 thrones, then you got the level 3. 13 ascension points total. I think we'll go for... Yeah, we don't want to have to capture them all. That might make the game too long. 9 sounds about right. That would be 1 level 3, 1 level 2, and a level 1. Or... Yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on the thrones with this. But I think I might put it to 10. So that would be... all four level 2 thrones and 2 level 1. Or 1 level 3. Because these are worth 3 points. These are worth 2 and these are worth 1. 1 level 3. And then 3 level 2. Yeah, I mean, that's a significant investment. We're going to have to basically win the game in order to do this. So, yeah, I think I might put it down to 9. It'll make the game a little bit dangerous for us. I'm actually going to not play the first turn, folks. I don't want these episodes to be too long because, yeah, I think I'm going to try to limit the episodes to about half an hour or 45 minutes if I can. Sometimes I get a little bit carried away, as you know. The other thing is, at the moment, is I don't know if you can tell, I'm not quite as lively as I normally am. I'm still recovering from some kind of chest infection, so talking for a long time starts making me cough. I've done quite well, actually, doing 45 minutes without coughing today. So I've drank like half a bottle of cough medicine. So yeah, but I'm super stoked to play Dominion 6. This game is going to be coming out on January the 17th, I believe, all being well. It'll be available on Steam, and yeah, guys, you got to check it out. It is really good. I hope you're looking forward to this series anyway. I don't often play Dominion's games on the channel, partly because they're quite long, and yeah, the other thing is that I get so into them that I start playing them loads offline, and then I kind of like overplay the game. So this time I'm actually going to try to finish this before I play anything else, alongside, you know, the other stuff that I play too, like Conquest of Elysium. So anyway, guys, I will catch you in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed the series already. Let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think of the new this new nation, Famini? Do they look cool? Because I looked at these initially and I was like, oh, it's a human nation. I don't know what I think about those. But then I looked at them more closely and I saw this research thing with them, and I thought, wow, actually, that is really cool. They look like they're really quite weak initially, but they're going to get strong really fast with the magic. And I think that is going to be the way that we're going to play this game. All right, guys, I'll catch you next time. Take care.